Hello everybody, this is Ali MK Hindi, and in today's video and pretty much throughout this week I'm going to go over the importance of developing a search strategy as part of the series From Chaos to Clarity, the literature review process. So the last week I talked about the importance on deciding on the type of review, and I can drop the link to that below for those who missed it. This week I'm going to go on about the importance of developing a search strategy. So as I allude to in the figure here, a precise search strategy is vital for finding key articles. So what are some of the things you want to consider in that search strategy? First one is kind of obvious, but aim. So what is the aim of your search strategy? What are you looking for? That's then going to inform your search terms, the type of search terms you use. Are you going to consider including and excluding studies based on the type of study they are? Publication period, when are you looking to start your search of the literature? Any potential language restrictions? And last but not least, geographical location. So are you going to limit your search to a certain region? Or are you going to keep it open? Now, before I move on to the example, the most important thing that there's no right or wrong answer here, as long as each step is justified as to why you select certain search terms or study types or publication period and so on. So every single step has to be ideally documented and justified. There's no clear-cut right or wrong answer. So to keep this concise, I was thinking, what is the best way of explaining this in a video and not taking too much time? And interestingly, I stumbled upon like this document for when I first started my PhD. So the first systematic review I was doing as part of my PhD. So this is back in 2016, and I think this review holds a special place in my heart because I think it was one of my first publications in terms of a peer-reviewed paper. But anyways, so just to illustrate the example of a search strategy. So here I've outlined my aim. I'm very clear on what I want to look for. I'm exploring the views of patients or public regarding the role of community pharmacies and the services they may provide. So it's obvious that based on this aim, I'm going to have, in terms of my search terms, a few lines, a few key terms. So one of them is going to be views and any sort of synonyms related to that, because I'm looking at views of patients and public. Another line here, I'll be looking at patients, public, client, because pharmacy is retail, and also of related terms. And then obviously community pharmacies, and so on. And then one line on the type of services they provide. Now, obviously, this is just a very brief outline. There are special wildcards and truncations and Boolean operators and all these kind of things, which is beyond the scope of this video. But that's basically what your search term is. So what are the terms I'm going to be using? And this is a sort of, you're going to have to play with it. So you probably won't get it right the first time. You're going to try few combinations until you find the right mix. It's important to highlight that. Once I got my search terms, I want to also consider what information sources I'm going to use. So obvious one will be search engines, Google Scholar, what databases I'm going to use. What I would add now, which wasn't there back in the time, is AI tools. So you might have connected papers, Research Rabbit, and so on. And the next video, I'm going to go on the specific advantages and disadvantages of using each. Timeline. So for me, it made sense to start from 2005 because that's when there was a push for pharmacy to do more services, community pharmacy. That was my justification. And there was also a previous systematic review that covered the period before that. So there was no need to duplicate what's already done. So that's where timeline becomes important. Pick a start point of where you want to start looking for papers and justify it. It might be that this is a time of an important policy. It might be that there's already a review that covered a certain period and you don't want to duplicate, and so on. Location. So for me, it was UK. I was doing a PhD. I wanted to avoid time constraints and also have a realistic number of hits. If I was going to expand the scope, I would have probably got a lot of papers, which I won't be able to do within the scope of a PhD. Your justifications might be different. So you might actually keep it broad. You might actually have several countries because they're all doing something similar in terms of what you're researching. And it goes back to the same thing. There's no right or wrong answer. You just need to justify it. Very important, inclusion, exclusion criteria. So that's how I laid it out here. So I was looking at these kind of studies. I'm not going to go into it for depth. Type of studies to be included. So for me, it made sense to have qualitative studies, and I justified why, as well as quantitative studies. So you have to consider these things. Are you looking qualitative, quantitative? Some people can get more technical, like we're specifically only looking for randomized control trials. Whatever the case may be, outline your inclusion criteria as well as your exclusion criteria. So what studies I'm not looking at, and so on. So that's just a brief example of taking you back to my PhD days of why it's so important to have a search strategy. These are really important things to consider from the onset, as they will inform your review, the rigor of your review. What you don't want to do is just sort of go out there with a sporadic or a vague plan and just sort of make it up as you go. Anyways, that is my video for this week. I hope you found it insightful. If you do, like, share, do whatever it is we do on LinkedIn. And hopefully stay tuned for next week, where I'm going to go about the importance of selecting information sources, the pros and cons in each. Thank you.